I have an announcement. If this video hits 100 likes within the first week of its release, I'll come out with a second round mock draft within the next month. Since this is such a long video, if you guys want to just skip to one specific team, I did put the timestamps for each pick in the description below. Hey yo, welcome to my channel and my official 2019 first round mock draft. Stay tuned to find out who I think your team takes in late April. Quick summary on the draft here. Very talented draft class for interior defensive linemen and edge rushers. In my top 15 prospects overall, 9 of them are edge rushers or interior defensive linemen. I know it sounds crazy, but it really is that special of a class for defensive line. You might be shocked at who I don't have in there. There's a lot of top talent at the safety position this year. I have at least 5 guys that could possibly go in the first round. I find that for offensive linemen, it's a very underwhelming pool of prospects. After like the top 2 guys, there's a pretty significant drop, and I think that sums it up pretty well. Before we get started here, keep in mind the kind of mock draft this is. I'm doing this mock in like a predictive fashion, so I'm trying to think of what each team is going to do rather than what I would do if I was in their position. So alright, let's get this thing started with the Arizona Cardinals. This was a really close one for me between Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams. They're both going to be very disruptive at the next level in the running game and the passing game. They're going to be elite players at their position. I have no doubt about both of them. But I think Quinnen goes first overall. You know, the tiebreaker for the Cardinals I think should come down simply to health. Bosa was off the field for majority of the year due to a groin injury, and Quinnen Williams was out there playing for a national title. For Bosa, his brothers missed some significant time, so you gotta wonder if teams are thinking about availability from the Bosa brothers. You know, in regards to buzz about Kyler Murray at number 1, to me, I think it was just a smokescreen so that they'd hope teams try to trade up, get a king's ransom for the number 1 overall pick. You know, I just think that Quinnen's their guy. I think he's the best player available, and I think he's healthier. You know, there's less health concerns with him. And after signing Terrell Suggs, who I think still has some left in the tank, they already have Chandler Jones, of course. I think their need kind of shifts to the interior defensive line, creating pressure up the middle and stopping the run with Quinnen Williams there, the big boy. Based on the reports I'm hearing, it sounds like the Niners are torn between the top 2 players in the draft, Quinnen and Nick. Of course you are. They're both amazing. But I've got some news for you Niners fans. You won't have the luxury of choosing. Niners take Bosa, move Armstead inside to tackle, completing a fearsome foursome on that D-line. Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, and newly acquired D Ford. Look out for the Niners this year if that happens, man. An elite offensive line, elite defensive line, and they're getting their franchise quarterback back. Wow, back, 2 backs. Lots of reason for optimism if you're a Niners fan. As much as the Jets should draft an edge player that they've been longing for about forever now, I think the hiring of Adam Gase has kind of been a clue that they're going to try to help out their young quarterback as much as possible. You know, Todd Bowles wasn't terrible for the Jets or anything. They just wanted someone offensive minded that was going to help out Darnold, you know, as they should. And I think the next step for them is going to be drafting a franchise tackle, and that's in Jonah Williams. Protect the blind side of Sam Darnold for the next 10 years maybe. You know, Jonah's the best technician of the draft, and the only concern I have of him is his arm length. He doesn't meet that 34-inch arm length standard for NFL tackles, and a lot of people have said that he should move to guard, but despite that, he wants to play tackle at the next level, and I think he's going to be elite at it. I could easily see them taking edge rusher Josh Allen if it wasn't for Greg Williams coming in and implementing that 4-3, but I think Josh Allen is strictly a 3-4 outside linebacker. That's because of his coverage skills. So yeah, I envision the Jets doing their best to help out Sam Darnold, who really had no O-line last year or any receivers that were decent. Anun was good, but you know, he's always hurt. He really had no help at all. So I see them trying to maximize Darnold. Speaking of Josh Allen, despite Paul Guenther's 4-3 scheme, I really don't see him passing on a player of Josh Allen's caliber. He's phenomenal dropping back into zone coverage, which is something the Raiders do a lot. To be a little more specific, he's always in the right spot, knows how to pass guys off in the zone, and knows when to react for what's in front of him. He's got a natural feel of what's going on behind him in zone coverage as well. You know, as great as he is, he's not the most polished, pure pass rusher in my eyes. Either way, what better draft to find Khalil Mack's replacement than this loaded pass rushing class? I've seen a lot of people link the Raiders to Rashawn Gary. This would be your typical Raiders pick. Raw prospect, crazy athleticism, but hardly any production in college. I don't see it happening with Mike Mayock calling the shots. I think with him, they're going to want someone more polished as a pass rusher and compete as a team sooner rather than later. There's a lot of pressure on Gruden to live up to that big contract. On to the Buccaneers. They have spent a lot of capital on cornerbacks in the past couple of years, signing Brent Grimes, drafting top guys like Vernon Hargreaves, Carlton Davis, and I honestly don't see them keeping that trend going here with Greedy Williams. I know a lot of people have linked Greedy to go to the Buccaneers, but because of losing Quan Alexander to the Niners in free agency, I think they're going to take the other LSU stud, and that's Devin White, linebacker. Out of all the players in the draft, Devin White might have the highest upside because of his transcendent athletic ability. He could be the next great linebacker in this game. For Tampa, he's going to be chasing runners down sideline to sideline or blasting through gaps in the run game with his explosiveness. One of the big stories leading up to the draft is, are the Giants going to take a quarterback? This is a very close one to call at this point. I think it's a 50-50 toss-up. They've come out and said they're keeping Eli for what seems like a farewell tour. The moves they've made seem like they're rebuilding, trading Odell, Olivier Vernon, Snacks Harrison, and Eli Apple, letting Landon Collins walk. These all seem like moves that's going to indicate a complete rebuild. But then just about everything else seems to indicate they want to compete, like keeping Eli in spite of his $23 million cap hit and trying to protect him by trading for an elite pass blocking guard in Kevin Zeitler, and he's not exactly young. It's just a cluster of contradiction for the Giants. It really seems like they have no direction. This pick was really tough for me, but at the end of the day, it would be incompetent to not take a quarterback with this pick, number 6 overall. Find Eli's replacement now because this is the perfect time to do it. There's no teams in front of the Giants that are in need of a quarterback, and that might not be the case in next year's draft. Giants take Haskins at 6. I think he's the safest quarterback of the draft, but I still have him 3rd. I don't perceive his ceiling to be all that high, whereas with Drew Lock and Kyler Murray, they're just better athletes and better throwers of the football. But Giants are going to take the traditional pocket passing quarterback in Haskins because they're a traditional organization that is obsessed with familiarity. Duval. Well, Jacksonville Jaguars turn. 1 year removed from the AFC Championship game. This is an interesting one since they're picking number 7. And it's actually a pretty easy one for me since the Jags have so few holes in their lineup. I briefly thought about offensive line because they were just so banged up last year at that position. They had Eric Flowers starting at tackle at one point. I even thought about tight end this early. You know, maybe one that could block really well like TJ Hawkinson. He'd amplify the identity of the offense, which is kind of just to pound the rock with Leonard Fournette, while he'd also help out Nick Foles as a receiving option. The dude can definitely run. I considered wide receiver, but I think in my opinion they have enough serviceable options like D.D. Westbrook, Marquise Lee, Keelan Cole had some moments. All those guys seem to have their moments last year. But even drafting a guy like DJ Chark, who's a complete freak, in the 2nd round last year. So jury's still out on him. Decision was easy for me, and that's to replace Tyshawn Gibson, who they just lost in free agency, I think, to the Texans. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson fits this glass slipper. He also happened to play just down the road at University of Florida. I have him as the best safety in the draft because of his versatility. Really quick, fluid, translates well to man coverage ability. Great instincts on the run and in the pass game. Great range, sideline to sideline. He can definitely play center field. He's also a really good tackler. 2017, I noticed he wasn't the best tackler, but 2018 made a significant improvement. He's really the full package, and I've got him ranked higher than most people do. I think he takes the Jaguars back to their 2017 form, honestly. Their biggest problem was that they were way too simple on defense last year. Gardner-Johnson really allows them to mix it up a bit on the defensive side and, you know, not get complacent with the coverages they run. I think this pick would help them get back to the AFC Championship game. Number 8 overall, Detroit Lions. I thought about pass rush here for the Lions, even though they just signed Trey Flowers. I mean, with that roster right now, The D-line's going to be a problem for opposing teams as it is. Trey Flowers, Snacks Harrison, A'Shawn Robinson, Deshaun Hand. I originally had them getting tight end TJ Hawkinson. I do think they're going to run the ball a lot more this season, but they ended up paying Jesse James from Pittsburgh. Good amount of money. Probably, I think it was 3 years, $25 million. They're really lacking at cornerback. They don't have anybody good other than Darius Slay. They grabbed cornerback Greedy Williams out of LSU, and that's going to make an interesting corner duo out there in the 3-1-3. The thing that really stands out about Greedy is his explosiveness and change of direction. It's going to be insanely hard to get separation on him as early as week 1. He can thrive in press coverage because of his length, or off man because of his elite change of direction and fluid hips. It's going to be really interesting. I hope they draft him. Bills number 9 overall. At first I had the Bills beefing up their receiving core with the freak DK Metcalf from Ole Miss. But now they've already spent some money on the position in free agency on Cole Beasley, John Brown, who's a deep threat, Andre Roberts, who's mainly going to be returning punts and kicks. So I've eliminated receiver as a first round option for the Bills. Offensive line, they already made some moves like signing tackle Ty Nsekhe and center Mitch Morse to a lot of money. One need that they have not addressed is the defensive tackle position, and there's still many studs on my draft board. I've got the Bills taking defensive tackle Jerry Tillery. Just watch the tape and you'll see that this guy pops off the screen. First thing to look for is his burst of speed off the line, check. Second thing to look for is how he uses his hands, double check. This guy's always able to get his hands inside and gain control of the person in front of him. Rarely loses control. He also has some versatility with his rush moves. I mean, he's my number 1 interior defensive lineman. He's going to the Bills at 9 and he's going to take him to another level. So, Broncos at 10. Broncos at 10 with 2 really good quarterbacks still on the board. My top 2 guys, Drew Lock and Kyler Murray. This is one of the most intriguing picks of the draft, if not the most, because I've got a little theory on it. Now, I might be giving John Elway more credit than he deserves here, but I think he's playing a little bit of chess instead of checkers. There were all these reports a couple months ago shouting John Elway's obsessed with quarterback Drew Lock from Missouri, just salivating over him and whatnot. Not being able to hide your draft interest, buddy, is a really weak move on your part. You gotta have a good poker face in this draft game. And then I think he kind of countered that with trading a 4th rounder for Joe Flacco. Then everyone kind of went with it, and everyone seems to think that Joe Flacco's their quarterback moving forward. But I really think that he's just trying to throw other GMs off his tail. Much better to give up a 4th rounder and prevent anyone from trading to pick ahead of you than to evoke fear in the teams behind you that want a quarterback. You've got the Bengals, Dolphins, and Redskins all within 5 picks, breathing down their necks, possibly wanting a quarterback, probably wanting a quarterback. So instead of giving a king's ransom to move up only a couple spots, Elway wants to detract from the fact that he so badly wants quarterback Drew Lock. He's even come out and said ridiculous things, like Joe Flacco is just entering his prime. There's no way he could possibly believe that, right? Either John Elway's playing chess, or the weed in Colorado is really as strong as they say it is. Once again, chess, not checkers. Now, I could just be wrong and Elway can just be that stupid. His past decisions would indicate that. But anyways, Drew Lock to the Broncos at 10. Really talented quarterback, played in the SEC for 4 years against the best of the best. Think of a more polished Josh Allen or like a Matthew Stafford. He does have some footwork concerns, but he should work that out. Cincinnati Bengals at number 11 overall. I think this team is headed down the abyss, man. I see them picking top 3 in next year's draft unless they take Kyler Murray. I could see Kyler carrying them to a couple of extra victories. The dude's a playmaker, plain and simple. Could spin the rock like few others can. And when it comes to athleticism, I have never seen a quarterback with that kind of acceleration and quick burst other than maybe Michael Vick. As an athlete, he's quicker and faster than Russell Wilson. But let's not forget, Wilson is a thick boy. He plays at around 220 pounds. Kyler played at 190 in Oklahoma. And that could mean durability concerns. He pushed past 200 for the combine, but he didn't run the 40, which might tell you he put on some sloppy weight and it made him slower. Either way, I think Murray is going to be a stud. I see Zach Taylor wanting a new guy for the new start. Doubt he wants Dalton as the quarterback. I think Bengals need a face of the franchise, and that's an Heisman winner, Kyler Murray. Packers are up at number 12. Before free agency, I thought they would for sure draft the top edge rusher from this class. Then they decided to spend their money on the two Smiths, Preston and Za'Darius. They did sign Amos, but they could use another safety. I don't see any on the board that wouldn't be considered a significant reach. I did say there's 5 possible safeties that could go in the first round. This includes Nazir Adderley, Jonathan Abram, Taylor Rapp, Deontay Thompson, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who is now off the board. These are all really good safeties that I could see going in the first round, but definitely not this early. My draft philosophy has always been to not reach on players because trading back's always a good option. I think inside linebacker is also a possibility here with possibly a Mack Wilson or Devin Bush. But I think it's time to get Rodgers a new toy. Do you guys remember Jared Cook on the Packers? He was really good for them. Him and Rodgers definitely had something going. There was this chemistry between them. At 12, I have them taking a player who I think is a lot like Jared Cook, but the improved version. Noah Fant is a player I'd love to see on the Packers because of the mismatches he would create for them. He's much too big for defensive backs and much too fast for linebackers. He also possesses rare quickness for the tight end position, and that tested really well at the combine, posting the best 3-cone time by far. He also ran a 4.5 40-yard dash, but besides that, you can turn on the tape and anyone can see how well this guy can run. It's nice to have the combine numbers confirm what is there on tape already. He could work on lowering his pad level when blocking, but he's far and away the best receiving tight end in the draft and would be a very useful tool for Aaron Rodgers. Packers take tight end Noah Fant at 12th overall. Dolphins have the 13th pick in the draft. They'll be going up against Sam Darnold and Josh Allen for at least the next decade probably. Jets and Bills just made a couple of nice adds to their offensive line, and the Dolphins were 29th in the league in sacks. The Dolphins are going to have to find a way to make those quarterbacks uncomfortable. I call upon edge rusher Ja'Kai Polite from the University of Florida to complete this task and disrupt these passers relentlessly, much like he did in his college days. You turn on some tape of Ja'Kai Polite and the first thing you see is high motor. He's relentless. What you're also going to see is a guy who is a Swiss Army knife. He can beat you with all types of moves. A great thing about Ja'Kai is that if the offensive lineman originally beats him, he will continue working to improve. Now, he didn't test too well in the combine, but you cannot ignore the film with this guy because the film trumps everything else. He also had some questionable words at the combine, where he seemed upset that scouts at the combine were quote-unquote bashing his game. But if you actually watch the video of him saying it, it's really much ado about nothing. The friendly tone he said it in indicates that it was just an observation he made. Dolphins get a much needed boost to their pass rush, but they still need a quarterback. Falcons with the 14th pick in the draft. They had some key guys get injured last year, unfortunately, which I think kept them from competing for a playoff spot. I could see cornerback here potentially with DeAndre Baker from Georgia, but they just drafted Isaiah Oliver last year. I think they go with Ed Oliver from Houston here and plug him in on the interior as a 3 technique, which for those who don't know, it means he would be lining up on the outside shoulder of the guard. It's the ideal spot for him because he excels as a pass rusher due to his quickness. I have a lot of concerns with Ed Oliver. He's very small and it allows bigger guys to push him out of the play in the run game. Reportedly was around 270 a few weeks ago. He put on a lot of weight for the combine, weighing in at 287, but he didn't run the 40, and that tells me he put on some sloppy weight and wouldn't run as fast. He is quick, he is fast, but I just don't get the Aaron Donald comparisons here. Watching Ed, I notice he can't use his hands like Aaron Donald does. He just relies on his quickness and burst, but the hands aren't great. I think he's a good player at the next level, not a great one. In this class, he's my 6th ranked interior lineman, behind Quinnen Williams, Tillery, Wilkins, Lawrence, and Simmons, but don't think too much of that. In last year's class, he'd be 2nd, somewhere in between Vea, who is on the Bucs, and Payne from the Redskins. He pairs with Grady Jarrett, making a pretty good combo inside, and he fits well in that 4-3 defense as a 3-tech. Quarterback could definitely be in play for the Skins at 15, despite trading for Case Keenum. But the top 3 quarterbacks are gone, and I think those guys really separate themselves from the rest of the pack. They just lost Crowder in free agency, Paul Richardson is coming off an injury, and I think they're done giving Josh Doctson more chances to produce. At 15, I think the Redskins are going to take a wide receiver. I have them taking DK Metcalf. The guy is a freak of nature. He was in at least the 93rd percentile for receivers in 7 out of 10 measurables. This includes the 40-yard dash, vertical jump, broad jump, arm length, wingspan, weight, and bench press. However, his 3-cone drill, which is more of a quickness drill, was in the 3rd percentile amongst wide receivers. He clocked in a 7.38 3-cone drill time, which is slower than, wait for it, Tom Brady. No, I'm not kidding. It even shows on film too on most of his routes. He's not a technical route runner. On comeback routes, for example, he doesn't drop his hips when changing directions. I think he's good enough of an athlete to overcome his route running deficiencies because of how strong and fast he is. But let's pump the brakes on him. He's no Julio Jones. I worry most about his injury history. In 3 years at Ole Miss, he only played in 21 games. Receiver in the 1st round, but the Redskins are going to keep an eye out for a quarterback in round 2. The Panthers are in need of someone who can get after the quarterback after last year ranking 27th in sacks. O-line could have been a 1st-round pick before they signed Darrell Williams and picked up center Matt Paradis from Denver. With the 16th pick of the 2019 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Montez Sweat, edge rusher from Mississippi State. I'm not too high on Montez, but I could see how the Panthers would fall in love with his length and athleticism. He was a standout at the combine, running a 4.42. But I think this is a situation where the explosiveness doesn't show as much on tape. In my opinion, his burst off the line isn't all that. Running a 4.4 40-yard dash is awesome, but it doesn't mean a whole lot when it doesn't show up on tape. At 6'6", he needs to work on his bend off the edge. I've said this a couple times during this mock. What I mean when I say bend is how low to the ground can he get when performing a rip move, while not compromising his balance and speed. This is one of the first things I look for in an edge rusher. A good bend takes away the blocker's ability to get their hands on the rusher's chest plate. Montez Sweat is my 6th ranked edge rusher in this class. After trading Odell Beckham, the Giants net another 1st-round pick from the Browns. They traded Olivier Vernon to acquire one of the best guards in the league in Kevin Zeitler. I see them trying to replace Olivier Vernon with a guy who can actually fit James Bettcher's 3-4 defense and play that outside linebacker role. Brian Burns from Florida State would be perfect for the Giants at 17. He is one of the best pure pass rushers in this draft. He has great bend in his rush and can beat you with a variety of moves. In the run game, he can set the edge real well, and his frame proves to be a great tool at taking on big blockers. His speed off the edge is going to be a problem at the next level, and unlike Montez Sweat, it pops when you turn on the film. I wouldn't be surprised if Burns went top 10. I'm just gonna say it. The Vikings have the worst offensive line in football, and that unit needs some major work. It all starts with prioritizing the offensive line. Kirk Cousins is going to need protection in front of him if they want to give him a chance at living up to that huge contract. They need to protect him at all costs. This guy didn't have the best combine with an underwhelming bench press and 3-cone drill showing, but the film comes first. Cody Ford would make a lot of sense to the Vikings. He's a versatile player who can play both guard and tackle. He would also provide a spark in the run game as a relentless run blocker who locks onto his man with strong hand placement and drives his legs. Vikings take Cody Ford 18th, but still a long way to go for that offensive line. Titans signing Roger Saffold to a deal that only averages $11 million per year is one of the biggest steals of free agency this year. Since Brian Orakpo just retired, I think they try finding his replacement this year with Rashawn Gary from Michigan. Like I said before, the thing I love about him is his burst off the line and the power he generates with it. There are a lot of things I don't like about him. He's one-dimensional as a pass rusher. All he has is a bull rush move, and that's not going to cut it in the NFL. Gary also lacks bend coming off the edge. He needs to lower his elevation and make it harder for linemen to place hands inside on his chest. To me, he's not polished enough to be considered a 1st-round pick. I have him as my 8th ranked edge rusher and 50th overall on my big board. He's got the physical tools for sure, but it's going to take elite coaching to turn him into a difference maker in the NFL. With the 20th pick in the NFL draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Antonio Brown. Sorry, I meant AJ Brown, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Steelers get their new AB immediately. Not comparing their skill, just initials. But I do have a lot of faith in the Steelers to find competent receivers in the draft. The last 2 years, they drafted a receiver in the 2nd round. But I think they pulled the trigger on one in the 1st this year to try and fill the Antonio Brown void. Now, what are they getting with AJ Brown? They get a versatile receiver who has a skill set to play in the slot or as an outside receiver. He's a big dude who's not just quick, but fast as well. That comes up on tape with the ball in his hands because he is great after the catch, which is something I really value in a receiver. He has reliable hands and is a very solid route runner. The Seahawks love to run the ball, and they also have a bunch of subpar tight ends. This is the contract year of Russell Wilson, and I see the Seahawks trying to simultaneously help out Russell Wilson while also finding a player that fits their identity on offense, which is to run the ball. TJ Hockenson can help Russell Wilson as a pass-catching tight end, or primarily contribute in the run game as an elite blocker. The thing that stands out most with Hockenson is his quickness when down blocking on opposing linemen who are not in front of him. Russell Wilson is in his contract year, and if the Seahawks want him to stick around for another few years, they can make their case by giving him TJ Hockenson, the best dual threat tight end in the draft. The Ravens lost some key pieces to their defense. Terrell Suggs, CJ Mosley, Eric Weddle, and Zadarius Smith. They could draft somebody in the first round as a replacement for one of those guys, but I feel as though the Ravens have players like Matt Judon and Tim Williams who would fill in just fine. Plus, they just replaced Eric Weddle with Earl Thomas, which I find to be a major upgrade. What the Ravens have been lacking for a long time now is a true, clear-cut number one option in the receiving game. This comes in the form of wide receiver N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. At a towering 6'4", he possesses incredible hands, great jump ball ability, and he can move better than most guys of his height, especially with the ball in his hands after the catch. But when it comes to his route running, I can't see him being much of a man beater in the NFL. It worries me when somebody's best trait is making contested catches, because it really tells me they don't excel at creating separation. The Houston Texans, 23rd pick in the draft. Huge deficiencies on the offensive line and being super thin at cornerback highlight the shortages of this squad. I was waiting for the Texans to make some sort of splash in free agency. When you have a stud quarterback on a cap-friendly rookie deal, that's the perfect time to spend money and surround him with as much talent as possible. Much like the Browns did this offseason. Time to get Deshaun Watson some protection and allow him to have some time in the pocket, which will in turn develop his accuracy from the pocket. Texans take tackle Jawan Taylor from the University of Florida. This would be one of the biggest steals of the draft. He's an incredibly balanced blocker who demonstrates proper technique, and he also has some admirable physical traits such as long arms and big hands. At the next level, I see him negating speed rushers using his quick feet and ability to secure a deep drop off the snap. I feel as though sometimes he's overextending his arms and doesn't get low enough to maintain leverage and pass protection. He can excel as a run blocker with his ability to manipulate defenders by turning his hips and sealing them off. Taylor is also phenomenal at getting from the first to second level in the run game. Being quick and decisive in doing that really shows how smart of a player he is and how fast he processes things on the field. Well, the Raiders have a lot of holes to fill, but the good thing is they have many picks to fill those holes. They satisfied their edge need with their first pick in the draft. In free agency, they satisfied their need at tackle with the signing of big boy Trent Brown from the New England Patriots, and upgraded at receiver with Tyrell Williams from the Chargers, while also adding J.J. Nelson to take the top off the defense. Current running backs on the roster consist of Jalen Richard, DeAndre Washington, and Chris Warren. No more running back by committee. Time to get a running back who can be on the field all three downs and is physical enough to run between the tackles. When you have Jalen Richard in the game, defenses know it's likely a passing down. I have the Raiders taking running back Josh Jacobs from the University of Alabama. He's got great vision and reads the defense effectively. Josh Jacobs is going to be a complete running back who can contribute as a runner, pass catcher, or blocker. Eagles missed out on a running back in free agency, so that tells me they're focused on getting one in the draft, right? With the 25th pick in the draft, I have the Eagles grabbing my number one running back in this class, Devin Singletary from Florida Atlantic University. This guy has some really special traits to his game. His patience is awesome, but when he decides to hit a hole, he hits it with such precision and quickness. He doesn't have good top speed, but his short area quickness is extremely impressive. He uses that to make the first guy miss, which is very important for a running back. It seems like such a long time ago that the Colts needed offensive linemen, but those days have come and gone. Going from one of the worst offensive lines to one of the best within a year was the quickest rebuild for an offensive line that I have ever seen. Now it's time for the Colts to collapse the pocket of opposing teams. They do this here by taking the best defensive lineman available, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins from Clemson. He has a great first step and is a good athlete. His active hands mixed with his power will make him an elite player in the NFL, and I think a future All-Pro. The first thing I want to see from a defensive tackle is how good he is with his hands so he can beat double teams on the inside. Then I want to see him be able to push guys back, and Christian Wilkins simply meets these requirements. The Raiders are up with their third pick of the first round, having already addressed some of their biggest needs by adding a tackle, 2 receivers, and a safety in free agency, and drafting a running back and edge player with their 2 other draft picks in the first round. Raiders need to address their biggest need available, which would be inside linebacker. With the 27th pick of the 2019 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select Mack Wilson, linebacker, Alabama. I think Mack Wilson is a very well-rounded linebacker who can do everything you want in today's NFL. He's athletic, can cover well, and shed blocks in the run game. I feel like sometimes he lacks gap patience and leaves holes for the running back. He could improve in his tackling angles. Overall, I think he's a better prospect than Rashaan Evans from a year ago. Could this be the spot for the heir apparent of Phillip Rivers? Personally, I do not think so. And I surely don't think Chargers management would have enough faith in Daniel Jones or Will Grier to make one of them a first-round pick. I think the Chargers tried to extend Rivers' Super Bowl window by helping the team win now. And you go into win now mode by taking the best player available. And on my board, that would be defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence from Clemson. Having only played about 600 snaps over the last 2 seasons, it doesn't look like Corey Liuget will be returning to the Chargers. Dexter Lawrence should be an upgrade on the interior. Imagine a defensive line with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram at the ends, and Dexter Lawrence paired with Brandon Mebane stuffing the middle. At 6'4", 350 pounds, Lawrence is just too strong for any lineman and will be a run stuffer at the next level. He would also be able to take advantage of quarterbacks stepping up and into him from avoiding Bosa and Ingram flying off the edge. We've got the AFC runner-ups picking at number 29 overall. Their O-line isn't too bad on paper, even after losing Mitch Morse to Buffalo in free agency. They are extremely thin at cornerback, and it shows after a 2018 campaign where they were ranked 31st in pass yards allowed per game. Kendall Fuller is their best corner, but he plays mostly in the slot, and they just lost Steven Nelson. What better way to bolster that secondary than by taking an elite player from Defensive Back University, DBU? Nope. Not LSU, not Ohio State, but from Washington, where they got their last good cornerback. Chiefs select cornerback Byron Murphy. He has elite burst and change of direction. I worry about his frame at the next level, trying to press big receivers at the line. I'm personally not a fan of corners who are not long and strong or don't have long speed to pair with quick change of direction. Corners like Denzel Ward, he's only 5'10", but he has insane speed and change of direction, which allows him to mirror any receiver. I do think Murphy makes up for his lack of long speed with his football IQ, and I think that's going to help him become a solid player at the next level. We've got the Packers with their second pick of the first round at number 30 overall. Like I said earlier, the Packers could use another safety. At pick 30, they take the most versatile safety left on the board. With the 30th pick of the NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Nazir Adderley, safety from Delaware. He's the most versatile safety remaining because he has enough range sideline to sideline to play as a free safety over the middle. He can also lay the boom on anybody and is a great form tackler, so he can play closer to the line of scrimmage as a strong safety. He's not great in man coverage, but this pick just makes too much sense for me, especially when you find out that he's the cousin of Herb Adderley, a former Packers Hall of Fame cornerback. Rams' first priority: make life easier for Aaron Donald. Take attention away from him by getting someone who can create pressure off the edge. They did that by signing Fowler for 1 more year. Rams have let Barron walk, so they need an inside linebacker. It's a big priority for them because of how bad they were against the run last year. But I don't think a Devin Bush solves that for them. His small frame doesn't do him any favors in the run game when taking on blockers. The Rams need an upgrade on the offensive line after losing Roger Saffold in the free agency period. Everything they do on offense is based off play action. If you stop the run, you can stop the Rams' offense. I'm willing to wager they draft an interior offensive lineman in the first round. They declined the option on center John Sullivan's contract. With the 31st pick of the NFL draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Garrett Bradbury, center, NC State. He is an extremely athletic center. He can move laterally extremely well, which is a big deal. He has great feet and hips. The one concern with him is how he does against stronger linemen. His anchor when handling a bull rush is subpar. Anchor as in, how well can he hold a powerful bull rusher by sticking his hands in his chest plate, planting his feet in the ground, and arching his back in order to absorb the force of the impact, all while not allowing opposing linemen to push him into the backfield. He struggles with this in-game, but he's no slouch, putting up 34 reps on the bench press at the combine. He would be the perfect fit for the Rams, who have an outside zone blocking offense. In LA, he would be playing to his strengths by blocking against linemen who typically would be moving laterally against an outside zone run, rather than having to face linemen rushing straight upfield and using their brute strength against him. Well, alright, we finally made it to the last pick, and it's the Super Bowl champ New England Patriots. The secondary, I must say, is looking pretty after just re-signing Jason McCourty. The offensive line is replacing Trent Brown with high draft pick Isaiah Wynn, and it's looking like Gronk isn't retiring after all that speculation. It just looks like the Patriots are going to continue to dominate the AFC once again. However, they just lost one of the best edge defenders in the league in Trey Flowers. To replace him, the Patriots are going to take the most complete edge defender remaining. In this case, in my opinion, it's Clelin Ferrell from Clemson. He is an elite run defender with great size and strength. He's probably never going to get pushed out of the play. When it comes to getting after the quarterback, he shows flashes here and there, but he needs to be more aggressive with his hands. He is my 5th ranked edge defender in the 2019 draft class. He should fill in nicely for Trey Flowers. Well, that's it for this mock draft. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, please, por favor, hit that subscribe button and notification button, which is that little bell icon. I said please in 2 languages, so now you have to do it.